Hello and welcome to Workforce Wisdom. I'm your host, Christy Bray, Chief Customer Officer at PracticeLink. This podcast explores the latest trends in healthcare recruitment, highlighting innovative strategies, success stories, and fresh perspectives that are transforming the healthcare workforce. These episodes will lead to in-depth, thoughtful discussions with recognized industry-leading healthcare professionals, exploring the challenges of healthcare recruitment and beyond. Whether you're an experienced recruitment professional or just starting out, this podcast aims to help you discover how experts are reshaping the industry, leveraging technology, and fostering inclusive hiring practices. Today's episode, From Shortages to Strategy, Spencer Britt on what's next in physician recruitment. Upon earning his MBA in healthcare management from Iona College, where he performed an extensive hospital operations lead internship, Spencer entered the recruitment sector with a range of learning, IT, and data recruiting searches for clients like the Federal Reserve, Centene, and more. Spencer then served as recruitment manager for one of the largest home health care providers in the St. Louis metro area, and ultimately stepped away to join forces with his wife, Molly, who was already 12 years experienced in the provider recruitment space. Together, they formed Britt Medical Search, the nation's largest family-owned provider recruitment firm. Welcome, Spencer.
Thank you so much, Christy. Such a pleasure to be with you here.
We're so glad you could be here. And I know we've known each other as in a customer-client relationship for many years. So I'm happy to spend some time together.
Thank you for asking me. It's a pleasure. Thanks.
So Spencer, can you start by sharing your journey into physician recruitment? Obviously, we got a little bit of that in your bio, but what really led you to work alongside Molly and establish Britt Medical Search? And how did that path eventually lead you to connect with the NAPR and its leadership?
Absolutely. So just, as a whole, I'd probably first mention my father was, deeply ingrained, successful with sales, large-scale business operations as a vice president of government sales for both Sharp and Panasonic Electronics. So I grew up in an environment where a lot of client relations facing in regards to clients, your colleagues, traveling to different sites. So the exposure to sales was always kind of there in front of me growing up. Inherently, I'm more naturally a people person. I really thrive on, relationships, meeting new people, cultivating, maintaining those relationships. That's just something that I'm inherently, rewarded from, which I'm sure you can, kind of resonates with you to a degree in regards to your past there. In regards to my journey to recruitment, again, going through, high school and college, I always wanted to be in the business type space. I didn't necessarily know that I would be a business owner, but I knew I wanted to focus on marketing, how to bring awareness to whether a service or a product, things of that nature. By the time I got my bachelor's, I was wanting to fine tune that. So I went back to graduate school, got my MBA in healthcare management. At that point, I really started taking a liking to the health sector. I didn't necessarily have the academic acumen to become a, oral max surgeon or something of that nature, or neurocritical care or one of those big shots, but I still wanted to be in that space. And I had enough dreams to say, maybe I could be a CEO of a hospital or something of that nature, right? So I did go back and achieve my MBA with that, where you mentioned I had an internship. It was Lawrence Hospital in Bronxville, New York, which now I believe is part of New York Presbyterian. It was a fantastic experience. I got to spend a lot of time with the physician liaisons there, where I'd see these new providers come in, how they'd walk them around to different areas of the hospital, the people they met, their responsibilities. It was a fascinating, intricate network of how it operated. It's almost when you go into a big hospital, it's just its own little country, the way everything's working, the different people's responsibilities. It was fascinating to me. It's still fascinating to me to this day when I have those conversations with hospital leaders. And I have a lot of appreciation for them. So after that, when I graduated with my MBA there, I moved to St. Louis here, where I had originally planned to become an administrative fellow, either at BJC, Barnes Jewish here, which is one of the largest care providers, or St. Louis Children's Hospital. They had administrative fellow positions. For a few reasons, that didn't occur in regards to application timeframes, et cetera. Fast forward, I got introduced to the idea of being in recruitment. First recruitment position I had was in the kind of IT business data space for some of those you mentioned, Federal Reserve, and Centene, kind of pharmacy benefit managers, if you will. And I enjoyed speaking to people. I enjoyed the excitement to find them a job, of course, the regular recruitment rewards, if you will, that we achieve on that daily kind of playing field. So I enjoyed that quite a lot. I then moved on to a home health care agency, which was in the top two, it might be top 2 or 3 in the St. Louis metro area. And that was really eye-opening to doing a lot of intensive face-to-face recruitment. I was performing group interviews with over 10 people sometimes. I'd sit down at a round table, ask questions, and we'd go through these processes because these were individuals that would be hired to go and provide in-home care. So the trust factor is just absolutely paramount. You have trust factor, reliability factor. And so the importance of that type of recruitment really, I would say, supported my desire to stay with it. My desire to stay in the recruitment sector. There was just enough substance there that I really enjoyed it. I spent a little over a year in that role. And at the time, I had met my wife, Molly, got married, and Molly was already 12 years experienced as a fantastic provider recruiter at another firm. There were a bunch of changes with the owner occurring there. And, it kind of synergistically came together that this is what the future might look like. So that's where we were. We formed Britt Medical Search, and we're almost going into now. It's been 9.5 years, 10 years next year. I just think that's a big testament to our employees, our vision, our mission, and how we treat people day in and day out, and what we truly care about here.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations in advance. The 10-year mark from when I interview entrepreneurs, the 10-year mark is really where a lot of folks feel they're kind of hitting their stride. They feel like, okay, this is reliable income. I'm able to, support my family or my employees. So that is a very big milestone that you guys have coming up next year.
Oh, much appreciated. We're very grateful to everyone we partner with and get to assist. It's a true blessing and pleasure.
So I know you've served as president and then now immediate past president of the National Association of Physician Recruiters. So NAPR, as I mentioned earlier. From your vantage point, what do you see as the most significant shifts in physician recruitment, over the last 5 years? And maybe what are some of those changes that are here to stay?
Absolutely. So, first of mind, I think the rise of certifications, the presence of LinkedIn in our lives, where we attach or attribute a certification to what our interests are, to also identify with that level of professionalism that we want to portray and provide, is something I've seen increase. It's really like an affirming identity factor in regards to email and conversations and potential new relationships. If I talk to John, Jay, Mary, or Sue, if they have a certification that's with a network, we would think of AAPPR, of course, is the top one that comes to mind. It immediately tells me, they're aligned with this level of professionalism, this commitment to work ethic, and that's something that I can expect from them, right? It sets the stage for expectations, and it gives me, from a client perspective, which, I speak to so many each day, a level of comfort and confidence. This is someone that's known, that has those attributes and cares,
And I know that NAPR has always emphasized ethics and professionalism in recruitment. I know it's one of the taglines on the website, but how do you explain that importance of an ethics-driven approach to clients, so your clients or other clients from NAPR members, and then candidates who may not be familiar with that level of focus on the code of ethics or the certified ethical recruiter concept?
Absolutely. So the way I really view it as a teaching opportunity to say, this is why we're the right choice to partner or trust us to work with us, trust us with your searches, to have that proficiency to serve their needs with their openings, et cetera, and to kind of set the stage, if you will. It's absolutely been for us a huge asset and tool, that partnership. That ethics-driven approach is something that a lot of partner clients have had unfortunate circumstances with other search firms, fighting over a candidate presented by another, not clearing, not speaking to one, submitting them for a bunch of positions that they weren't aware, things of that nature. And our time is so valuable. It's a miracle we're having this dialogue right now. It really is a miracle. So you got to respect people's time nowadays. And you do that by vetting candidates the right way. And that's really a big cornerstone of that ethics-driven approach you just mentioned there. That cannot be, overstated enough.
So, for our listeners who may not be members of NAPR, what makes it unique among healthcare recruitment associations, and how does that mission translate into day-to-day support for those recruiters?
Sure. So what I would say is in terms of support for the NAPR Code of Ethics, all the building blocks of integrity, the way to conduct ourselves for being a search firm, if you will. It's a comprehensive code that supports conducting candidate screening, presentations, client relations in the right way that respects their goals, desires for the right candidate they may want, how their positions are represented. And that's something, the way that that's outlined, and it's right on the NAPR website, I will mention for your listeners. If you want to look in depth to that, the Code of Ethics, 10 Commandments, really should make a lot of sense to everyone kind of reading through those. So that's kind of the everyday governing operations there, and how that mission translates into a day-to-day support for physician recruiters. And I would also then say, when you become a member of NAPR, the cooperation and member support in regards to dialogue we have on webinars, listening to our members about what topic they'd wish to discuss. At the end of some of our webinars, we'll keep another 10, 15 minutes to what else is on someone's mind, use the chat feature, let's discuss it. At NAPR, I'm a phone call or email away from many people. That kind of collaboration is truly, truly valuable.
So I know that NAPR partners with NALTO, the National Association of Locum Tenens Organizations, on your annual conference. Can you tell us a little bit about that relationship and maybe a little bit of what the synergy is that brought your two organizations together in that way?
Most certainly, yeah. And thank you for asking that and bringing that up. It is something that, here we are already in November. We have that, what you just referred to, convention occurring in Las Vegas, February 4th to February 6th of the beautiful Bellagio. And that partnership with NALTO to do that convention is truly synergistic in regards to finding providers, whether it be on the NAPR side, which is more contingent, retain focused, or NALTO in regards to the locum tenens aspect. They're pieces of a puzzle for provider recruitment that are getting providers into the spots they need to be in to help the community. So really, when you take one or two steps back from the acronym names, we're doing the same thing. We're finding providers for communities day in, day out. That's what we care about. So it truly is synergistic.
Yeah. And I'm glad you pointed that out. I think that's something I've always focused on with my teams and in my career, is the goal of what all of us are doing in healthcare staffing is to find providers to serve those communities. So just because that provider only wants to work in a locums capacity, that's still filling a gap in the community. So I think it's important to say, really the distinction is just the work setting or that work style, employed or not, et cetera, that you guys are kind of focusing through to get the candidates into those communities.
Absolutely. The result is getting a gap of care filled in the community, and that, is going to touch tens of thousands potentially of community people's lives. That's just a huge, huge thing.
Yeah. So what are a few concrete ways that NAPR membership has directly impacted, the way that you run your company, Britt Medical Search, how it operates? Are you using that platform or those standards to train your team, managing your clients' expectations, and then maybe again, building that national network of physicians because you do operate in such an ethical manner?
Yeah, so I would say in regards to, we have 3 employees now on our team, and really that way of conducting candidate screening, representing a partner client's position fully and clearly and being honest about different factors of the role. So a lot of transparency comes to play in regards to how the NAPR membership empowers us to interact with candidates and clients. I mean, that again, we're talking about, I used the word 5 or 8 minutes ago about building blocks, right? That's kind of what we're building on. We're building the house of recruitment here, built on the right principles. And it may spider out in different areas, but conducting yourself in that type of ethical manner, understanding your client, understanding your candidate, and then appropriately in that way interacting and handling them is invaluable. And that's what gets you the results in the long term. So, and that's what we've blessed with and seen. So that's been a very, very critical factor to our growth. And then I think I would just again mention, and I would stress this again, client expectations, that they're going to receive a truly vetted, interested, viable candidate. They're so busy. A lot of our clients are seeing patients and running to the phone real quick to give us a quick phone call, an update on someone that might have interviewed. The last thing we want to do is rush a candidate, not appropriately vet them, and then all of a sudden, Dr. Smith spends 30 minutes on the phone with someone that's wasting his time when he could be seeing patients while grandma or someone's waiting and waiting. These are real things and real scenarios we as recruiters need to have in our minds when we're doing this. It's one of the many, you got to ensure you're respecting your partner clients' times. That's one of the main reasons they're coming to us. I don't have time to go out and speak to 100 people or look at 100. Please help us. So this is just kind of 101 recruitment. Know your clients and know why they're speaking to you in the first place.
Hope you're enjoying today's podcast. Just wanted to break in here to remind you of PracticeLink's new Physician Resource Center at PracticeLink.com. To check out our Physician Resource Center, head over to PracticeLink.com today. PracticeLink's Physician Resource Center is a collected hub of content which includes valuable resources and information about contracts and compensation, the job search and interview process, quality of life and wellness, and many, many more areas designed specifically to inform and support physicians' professional growth and success. To check out our Physicians Resource Center, head over to PracticeLink.com today. Thank you for listening, and now we'll return to the podcast.
The work that you do, would you qualify them as a warm lead or a hot lead? Definitely not a cold lead, because as you've explained it, you and your team have already spoken with these individuals. It's much different than how some of these relationships work with search firms.
There's many different ways we get providers that are interested in speaking with one of our client partners, but they have to, have factors such as record being checked, geographic location, interest, of course, things of that nature, understanding the structure of what that particular employment opportunity is, whether there's hospital work, et cetera. It can get complex fast. So it's really a case-by-case basis, but the vetting of the critical components of the job are done by us, that candidate's willing and interested in learning more about that, and that it's at a level to where our client partner wants to take 30 minutes or have a team and get people together to speak to them. So it's really quite important. So I would certainly put them in the warm to hot category, certainly never below that. It's just not, there's just too much can go wrong. There's too many factors in regards to what we're doing to say, go speak to so-and-so and stay half an hour late at the office, Dr. So-and-so,
Right. Yeah. I think being respectful of everyone's time is important within the landscape that we work in. So we know, workforce shortages, burnout, changing compensation models are really reshaping the healthcare recruitment market. But when you look across your client base at Britt Medical Search, what trends are you watching more closely, and how should recruiters listening be adapting, to those changes right now?
The way I'd answer that is, from my own experience, I think is the most valid way to answer that. In my own experience, what we've seen collectively here at Britt Medical is strategizing with our clients ways to retain in the long run providers to stay with them. Again, we're going to use that word time, the money it takes to attract, pay a search firm fee, get them in the door and do that. How do we ensure this person's here in a year or two from now? So working with your clients to say, what can we do to create an environment? And this is going so far beyond just, let me take a plastic surgeon and find them a role here in Hollywood, right? It's just so far beyond that. So I think maybe what I'd kind of restate that as, know the client and know how to present the role to the candidate to see if there's truly interest there. But in terms of going back to just that factor of shortages, burnout, and changing compensation, I would say 1, 2, and 3 year retention bonus clauses offered by employers, maybe 3 and 5 year mark equity stakes are something that they need to consider. And this is sometimes we'll push back and we'll say to a client partner, this is something you really want this person to be 3, 5, 10 years there. They might need to think about that. At first, they thought they went, maybe their demographics changing, maybe their market's changing, maybe there's different priced housing. I could talk to you about housing and real estate prices and how we've seen a correlation in regards to data applications. PracticeLink would have a ton of data if they went back and looked at this in markets for application location. That would be a fascinating call to have.
Yeah.
I think the retention, the long-term strategy where a lot of times I need to find someone that's going to stay. I need to find someone that's going to stay. Well, in order to stay, yes, a great fit, a great relationship is important. Also, some things in regards to after that provider's been with you for 3, 4, 5 years, are you maybe going to offer an equity, things of that nature for retention. So I think that's important.
Are you giving that type of direction or advice to your clients, in advance of some of their searches? I know that's a component. Usually you would see that in a retained capacity where they may ask you, what are you paying for, family medicine in Wichita, Kansas? Like they will want to know some of those details. Are you providing some of those aspects directly to the clients that you're working with?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of them are coming to me as kind of trying to utilize me as a subject matter expert in regards to what do I pay this person? What's comparable? What's competitive? What do they want to see in terms of their first year earning potential? It's something that we strategize with. And, we hardly do, rarely do we do, retained roles because we're so focused on contingent and our confidence on our contingent abilities, especially our smaller client partners. If it's a one provider, solo provider, 3 provider, 5 provider office, yeah, they want our knowledge and we're happy to give it to them. Absolutely. It goes back to our mission. When you truly care about people and you truly care about the community that provider's going to go to, of course I'm going to have the conversation with them and they're going to appreciate it. And that's going to solidify and strengthen our relationship.
For sure. And I think trying to get, recruiters or health systems or private practice, like getting them comfortable with some of the levels of detail. I know people still struggle with putting compensation or any type of dollars in their job postings.
Now legally required by some states, I believe 12 or 13.
Yeah, there's requirements, for the states. I think equally on a performance side, what we see on PracticeLink, jobs that have dollars in them perform at a significantly higher level. Someone that I work with, their spouse was looking for a job and she was very clear she wasn't applying to anything that didn't have compensation already listed in the job posting. And so I think we're just seeing more and more, it is one of those time savers for candidates that they are very focused on wanting that transparency, from their potential employer. I think if people are having a hard time, I would advise you, think about just if some of your incentives like student loan assistance or things like that are, kind of set and standard. Those are the types of things that help generate some of that interest in your job post and create that SEO value that you're looking for. So that's great that you provide that knowledge, especially to maybe some of those practices, like you said, that they may not know. The market may have shifted from the last time they hired someone. It probably has shifted significantly.
Yeah, especially in the last 5 years, the volatility and changes have been astronomical.
Yes, yeah, lots of tens of thousands of dollars. It's a very huge increase. So let's talk about technology. What role do you see data, automation, and AI playing into the future of physician recruitment? And where is the line between using tech to enhance relationships versus replacing that human touch?
So I smile because I'm not someone that's particularly excited about AI. I understand its benefits and I absolutely acknowledge there's benefits. But to go back to kind of my beginning kind of intro, I'm a people person. I always like to say, and maybe it's neither here nor there or not relevant to some AI aspects, but a psychologically healthy person is rewarded by human relationship by and large, right? So that's kind of where my mind's at on it. So I guess I'm psychologically healthy. I don't know. But to be a little more specific, there are, of course, benefits in regards to geolocation descriptions people use for AI. That's one of the most common talked about and utilized in recruitment to give a summary of where a job location is. I think that there are limits on what AI can do in regards to our roles, but I'm all for, we have an employee with us. One of our team members loves AI and uses the tools all the time. It helps to a great extent. So of course we empower and support that. But I would also just bring up real quickly one example that came to mind when you just brought this up was we had a posting online. I got a call from one of our top 10 best client partners that said, the compensation is almost $200,000 lower on the surgical role that's posted out there. We said, wait a minute, that's something's not right there. Did something wrong occur in a job posting? And the website was branded as a, AI smart intelligent type website cross-posting aggregator, right? So they thought that they were arrogantly intelligent enough data-wise to include a salary on the job. Well, that just happened a couple days ago, and I think it's a pretty darn good example of things out there to be careful with. So maybe I would put a bow on this answer to say, make sure that you know what you're getting into, what information you're getting out. And I would say we're at the stage with AI big time to question everything still. Question everything.
It is only, I think we talked about this before the recording is, it is only as good as the person asking it questions. It is a learned technology. So it's learning from you all the time. You still need to do some spell checks and some grammar checks and things like that. I do think the way we approach it at PracticeLink is really to use it as an assistant. So to help offset some of maybe the data analysis or, some of that work that takes a lot of time. If you can teach the GPT, it can help you just be that much faster in some of your assessments and review of stuff. So we've really focused on using it to assist you in your work, not to take over the work that you're doing.
Yeah, and I think that's the position it needs to be in, perhaps smaller type of supporting in regards to the overall mission and operations you have. So yeah, totally can agree with that. Yeah.
So now we're seeing telehealth, locums, and then that more flexible practice model. We're really seeing that open some doors for clinicians and that really kind of being a practice type of choice for them. But how are those shifts really changing the profiles of the job that you and your team recruits for? And then maybe the way that other recruiters should be positioning their opportunities for today's physicians?
So in regards to that aspect for telehealth and locums, I would say, for us specifically in regards to being perm contingent, it just gives us an opportunity to be more clear about what we're recruiting for. So for the candidates out there that are wishing to have a telehealth capacity or locums, it allows us to be on the other side. Find yourself a long-term growth role in Dallas, being a primary care provider. So it just enables us to clearly differentiate what we are and what we aren't. In terms of the growing number of telehealth and locums, we haven't seen any decrease in regards to overall openings. So I would say, I think a lot of those as a whole are just new type of technologically enabled opportunities. So that's a great thing. More providers to work in a different capacity to help the communities. So that's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think back to what we said earlier, I've always had a bias. Like I don't care where the provider comes from, as long as they are a qualified person that is able to save lives.
Absolutely.
We talk a lot on this podcast about what candidates are looking for and really just finding that balance in their life between clinic time, hospital time, all of the home time. They're really just wanting to find that. And I think the sooner that organizations realize we cannot enforce this 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, plus a call schedule, you will just continue to lose the people you have, and then you won't be attracting, any new folks as they finish their training into those type of opportunities. They just don't want that. That's not something that they desire to do in their career.
No, and to further support what you just said there, the word from last year's convention was autonomy. We had a physician panel up there on stage, and the word that the 3 or 5 providers agreed upon that was most in demand and desired was autonomy.
Not surprising. Yeah, not surprising at all. So from an NAPR perspective, how are you thinking about preparing the next generation of recruiters? And we are seeing a phenomenal amount of new people added to their PracticeLink accounts. I know, organizations have new folks coming in all the time, but what skills and mindsets or competencies will be kind of the non-negotiables over the next decade for these new folks coming in?
Yeah, so I would say just, the way you phrase that from an APR perspective, it's those building blocks on how to conduct yourself with candidates, understanding the roles your provider partners have, and kind of clearly being honest about that and approaching screening with candidates appropriately, vetting them for the roles. So we would put under NAPR Recruiter, the Recruiter 101 series, which is actually a learning tool within NAPR that kind of walks you through what the building blocks of being an efficient provider recruiter are. And it's, of course, closely tied into those, the ethics and commandments of how to conduct those operations. So I would say it's important to get those building blocks in place. Of course, each recruiter is going to find their own story, their own passions, their own ways of doing things. But I don't think that the knit and grit of how you're approaching to service, to assist a client's role, to talk to a potential candidate is going to change. We all have our own styles, but to have that ethical principle and to really make that flourish and shine of who you are in regards to certification, your alignment with an organization like that is really going to empower you. And it's always well received in regards to the conversations we have with new client partners all the time. We're in the age of certifications where we see it across LinkedIn, we see it in people's email signatures. I mean, everywhere you look are certifications. So to align yourself with one as large as the National Association of Physician Recruiters is a big deal. It's something we strongly encourage all to do.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, I've at least talked about this for years, like none of us went to recruiter school. I don't think there is such a thing, except for if you get involved with a national association like NAPR to bring those things forward. I mean, all of it, you and I have a similar background in healthcare operations, but a lot of folks have a marketing background or a journalism background. So we come from sales background, and we get a lot of folks from other industries and bringing them into what we're doing and being able to teach them in that way. You mentioned this before, but NAPR offers things like webinars, conventions, and other networking platforms. If a recruiter is trying to decide, where to invest their limited time and probably budget, how would you suggest they leverage what the association is offering for education and networking most effectively?
Absolutely. So I would say, within NAPR, look through the learning materials that are there. Feel free to propose a webinar topic. Feel free to request some of our member contact information, get people's opinions, ask questions, reach out. That's what's so important about a network like ours is if you need a template for a retained agreement, if you have a question about compensation in this location, it's a network that truly is open to discussing. I've never made a single phone call, whether pre-board of NAPR, post, now, current, where I haven't been met with receptiveness and helpful information. And that's a big deal nowadays, especially when there's a lot of misinformation out there. To have a trusted place to go to for that correct information is a great tool. So that's a very important thing.
Yeah. I know you've mentioned several of the strengths of the association, and NAPR is really working on fostering that collaboration in what can be a very competitive space. So I appreciate what you're doing there. How do you envision some of those initiatives like the networking groups or, maybe the opportunities like at your conference really help recruiters to tackle challenging searches and really kind of break down some of those silos where they are more of a support network than competitors?
Yeah, I would say open dialogue. Last convention we had, I remember looking after a speaker breakout session, and there must have been 10, 12, it might have even been 15 groups of smaller, recruitment, from different firms discussing, sharing notes, contact information, have the discussions, So, that word silo now, shouldn't, be in existence really. There's too much information. And with an organization like ours that's willing to help, open to help, there's tools out there. And we're one of the best, if not the best, in regards to contingent, perm space for a national association. We're here to help. We keep welcoming new members all the time. I think the mission and ethics are always going to resonate because, again, they are building blocks. For new members, we have, again, I'll just state, we have those learning opportunities. We have the yearly convention, which, has a number of great breakout sessions and speakers, open dialogue. We do real-time actual recruitment scenario breakout sessions where we'll work on a scenario and kind of, then present to the room what the answer was and how we tackled a recruitment issue or problem and overcame it. So just things of that nature that are in depth just lead to relationships and new knowledge for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I appreciate what the association is doing to educate those folks. I know you and I are kind of in this for the long haul. So it means a lot. It means that there's some thoughtfulness and legacy being created there.
We appreciate, this platform that you're providing as well. I was astonished to hear, we're over 30 now participants on this recording in this series. So kudos to you and thank you for doing this, because having these discussions are invaluable for a lot of people to get other people's insights, and it's just a wonderful thing.
No, it's my pleasure. I appreciate that, Spencer. Okay, so paint us a picture of physician recruitment in 5 to 10 years. So what do you think will look completely different? What do you hope never changes about how we connect physicians with the communities that need them? And maybe just give us your future vision.
I almost feel like 5 years is too long in regards to technology progressing so quickly. So I'd probably be a little more comfortable saying 2-3 years at max. But I think we'll see a lot of larger and mid-size health systems, hospitals, and medical groups try and utilize automated candidate, hiring applications. And I don't necessarily think that that's going to it's going to translate into a more timely hiring process, right? Again, I'm saying this from real world experience, hearing more so the frustration among providers. They've applied for a role, so-and-so, haven't heard back, see a posting that it's open, and we of course know the recruiter there to immediately connect with. So I see the potential delays and timeliness and process with automated applications and hiring kind of enabling us to be recruiters and kind of flourish in that regard. That's where I see that happening.
Yeah, I agree. I think the faster that anyone can move in a responsiveness way, it is very key. I still hear of physicians getting ghosted by recruiters, which I just think is crazy. If they have applied for your job or responded to your email, it is paramount that folks are following up with them in a very, very quick way. You can leverage a lot of technology to do that for you. If it's a text or an email or phone call, you can leverage technology in every one of those aspects to do some of at least that initial outreach to keep them warm and interested in what the position is.
Absolutely. It's an unfortunate reality that a lot of provider hiring, facilities and places across the nation are having employee shortages themselves. And, a lot of times it's no surprise to speak to a single hospital or a health system that's down 50% of their talent acquisition or recruitment force. I know you mentioned before in regards to new recruiters coming in, but I don't know that that's translating to a lot of retention in the space, because we're in the day and age where people are, of course, changing jobs and employers at a record rate. So there's a lot of instability in regards to, talent acquisition and recruitment as a whole for those employees staying in those roles. So it's an ever-changing part there.
Yeah, I think without that retention, you lose a lot of the historical context of maybe not just how things were done, but really, an understanding of your community, or, there's some details that get lost whenever you have that high turnover rate within a recruitment team.
It's a big deal. The clients we have where it's the physician practice owner that speaks about their role passionately, speaks about what they want to achieve to a provider, are exponentially usually, I should say, quicker, faster to fill, and lead to a higher chance of retention with that provider. Likewise, in a large hospital, it could be a nationwide health system. If that recruiter's been there for 10 plus years, 5+ years, and they're passionate about finding great providers, people know, people can tell. You can just tell. And that can't be overstated enough. When you have a recruiter that's been there for 5, 10+ years, that's passionate, providers love hearing that. It gives them such a sense of security, optimism, excitement. We're kind of almost getting into the onboarding sector where our good friend Donna Ecclestone would love to shine and speak. Donna, you're wonderful out there. But it's very important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think absolutely. And I think it's not just, I think we talked a lot about physician retention and things like that, but it's everyone within your workforce, doing what you can to retain those quality employees is a must right now.
And you do that by listening, you do that by listening and empowering them. And that's a skill not everyone has. Maybe that's unfortunate in that regard, but you got to listen, you got to empower them. And it goes beyond giving them more money, of course, So that's going to be another, and I would actually kind of tie that into that question you asked about that picture for 5 to 10 years in physician recruitment. Empower your employees and be aware of what their true needs are. Keep your team thriving, keep it focused, and the sky's the limit for working with great new people and helping candidates.
Yeah. I would add to that, make sure you celebrate. It may take hundreds of days or years to fill a position. And we often just, kind of go, oh, yay, they signed. And then you just move right on to the next thing to fill. But take the time to really celebrate those, because those wins are key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You do more than just ring the bell, right? You ring the bell, and then you really take a deep breath, sit back and say, wow, that was special. Enjoy the process and celebrate. And to your point there, I think recognition, reward is so important in search firms to do that. So a lot of the search firms watching this, that was fantastic advice. Christy, I wouldn't have mentioned, but certainly I believe in celebrate. Have some cake.
Okay, so as we wrap up, what's one practical action you'd challenge our listeners to take this year? I know we're towards the end of the year, but whether they're recruiters, administrators, or vendor partners, to strengthen the future of physician recruitment and elevate the standards of our industry?
I think it starts with you and your team. And I think it's listening more. And again, we'll use that word empower. I think we are in an age where it's press a button, get a result, have an answer for everything, go to this website, get an answer. And if we can listen a little more, I think we'll ask better questions, and I think we can get better results in regards to that. So I hate to say one thing, while I think it's listen more and empower those around you, especially from maybe being a business owner or a point of contact even for a client. Listen more and do your best to empower your team to stay on your mission and get providers to great locations across the nation, helping communities.
Well, thanks for that. On behalf of myself and everyone at PracticeLink, I want to extend a sincere thank you to you, Spencer, for joining me today on the Workforce Wisdom podcast. Your perspective on ethical physician recruitment, the impact of NAPR, and where the industry is headed is incredibly valuable to our listeners and those taking notes as they come along to follow us in the industry. For those tuning in, you can connect with Spencer on LinkedIn and learn more about his work at Britt Medical Search. You can also explore membership resources and ethical standards in recruitment by visiting the National Association of Physician Recruiters at napr.org. You can also find additional tools, education, and insights for your recruitment journey in the PracticeLink Resource Center at www.practicelink.com. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts, takeaways, or questions about today's episodes. You can reach our team at any time at plmedia@practicelink.com. My name is Christy Bray. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Workforce Wisdom.